All right, here we are, Wednesday, March 5th, another Water Cooler Wednesday. Thanks everybody for tuning in and thanks for listening to the show. And remember, this is rebroadcast for you in full video on YouTube. It's also the audio portion goes onto the podcast, which is Real Estate Without Renters. And Real Estate Without Renters is, of course, the name of the book as well. So if you're looking for more material for just around 20 bucks, you can just pop on Amazon and look up my name, Kevin Shortell, or look up Real Estate Without Renters, and you'll find the book there, and you'll really enjoy the book. It's instructive, but it's also entertaining. Get a lot of good compliments on it. That's a nice way to get started if you're brand new. I'm joined as always by Dwayne Gibbs. Good morning, Dwayne.
Good morning.
How you doing?
I'm good.
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 Now we're fresh back from a conference out in Arizona. The Noteworthy went great, and lots of moving parts going on in the industry right now. I mean, we talked about inventory, we talked about artificial intelligence, how that's affecting it, governmental changes perhaps, and a lot of different ways to go in the business. We can, creating loans, buying loans that somebody else already created, all part of the opportunity that is before us. Today, I thought we would look at the other side of the note business, which we did talk about at the conference, which is non-performing loans. Non-performing loans right now is a smaller part of the overall inventory, a much smaller part. Maybe 15% of the inventory that I see is non-performing, and the rest is all performing notes. But that doesn't mean it's something that we should ignore. So non-performing notes are problematic notes because, well, it's right in the title, right? It's they're not performing, they're not paying. That doesn't mean that you don't purchase them. That just means that you have to be sharper, more skilled at identifying what the problem is and then knowing what solution to utilize. It's something Dwayne and I've always talked about. How many tools are in your toolbox? If you're a one-trick pony, you know one way to do things. I don't care if it's regular real estate or notes. If you just know one way to do something, you're going to be very, very limited in what you can do as the markets start to change a little bit. And Dwayne and I certainly have been around long enough to see changes in the industry, and just you have to be adaptable, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we see uh, when I talk to students one-on-one or in a group, everybody says, "Well, I want to do performing notes," and that's all fine and good. That's great. Obviously, that's the biggest influx in today's market that you can buy. But if this note goes bad, what are you going to do? Now you think, "Oh my goodness, what do I do?" And so you have to know both sides of the business. Have to. That's a must. Regardless of the strategies, you have to know both sides of the business because there's always an exit strategy that you have to get familiar with and do, and you do uh, a great job at educating people on that. And we talked a lot about that this past weekend out in Noteworthy.
Yeah, and that's a great point for education wise. Always have to know both sides of the business, being performing and not performing. And it also fits in. So, from an education standpoint, it makes sense to learn about those. But also from an opportunity standpoint, it makes sense because most of the people I talk to, they want to make that nice passive income, but they also would like that lump sum. We like to make a chunk of money to catch us up. And it's just a part of what they need as a plan, which means that you do have to keep one eye glancing over at the non-performing notes as you're perusing and looking at the performing notes.
Yeah.
Performing notes easier to find, easier to analyze, easier to purchase. Non-performing notes, there's more effort there. But with that effort, of course, you're buying these notes at a much more significant discount, which creates a big upside. So it's something really that comes with understanding when you go into a non-performing note, you must have backup plans. You can't go in with one exit strategy. So very similar to traditional real estate. If you're buying a property, you better have multiple plans on that property. Sure, you can target and hope for one direction, and maybe that's just a turnaround and flip the property. But what if the property's not reselling? Do you have a backup plan to rent it? Do you have a backup plan to do a lease option on it? Do you have a backup plan to offer seller financing as a way to sell that property? The more of those that you have, the easier that deal is going to be. If you're just an investor, like I said, that has one thing, we're going to buy this property, we're going to fix it up, we're going to turn around and sell it. I know what's going on right now in virtually every place in the country. Your margins are getting thinner and thinner. And the longer that thing sits on the market, it's costing you money, which is just decreasing your profits. So it's important to know these alternatives. Moving over to the note space, same thing. When we go into all notes, we have backup plans, but it's much more important on the non-performing side to understand what the backup plans are, because there are things that are not within your control on the non-performing side. And I'll explain what those are as we go through. So once again, if you're interested in the book, it's Real Estate Without Renters. That's what it's going to look like on Amazon, by the way. And I'd strongly recommend that you take a look at that if you haven't purchased that book already. So this is a non-performing loan in Florida. It had a BPO, broker's price opinion. That's an estimate by a real estate agent of what the property is worth, and it's $126,800. And you can see that this was an occupied property. In fact, you can see a boat is on this property as well. This is over towards the beach. And I say this all the time, but to truly master this business, you must understand that it's a combination of numbers and story, numbers and story. The more information you have on both sides of those, the better you are able to think through exit strategies and where this is likely to go. Living where they live, having a boat, that sort of thing puts them in that lifestyle. You know, there's an indicator just as something as simple as that they want to stay. The house is also in good condition. In other words, they're maintaining the property. They're not making their mortgage payments, but they're keeping the property nice. That's an indicator. That's something that you look at and say, I think they want to stay. Maybe they just ran into a rough patch. Maybe they can catch up. A lot of people who aren't making mortgage payments get lost in the system and they don't know what to do. They know that they can't come up with all the money that they owe, so they get scared and they sit back. It doesn't mean that they don't have any money or have saved any money along the way.
That's a great point. We were on a call yesterday and you made those exact points. Somebody gets behind, and if they try and contact the lender, sometimes that lender doesn't get back to them. Things just progress. They're not getting a call back, and now they don't know what to do. And so being able to offer situations, different workout strategies for the homeowner, that's what you have to be in tune with of what you're able to do.
Well, let's face it, big banks, they don't have loss mitigation departments of significance these days.
Right.
It's all robo phone calls that go out, that sort of thing, and then notes are traded within banks. So there's no question people get lost within the system. And in the meantime, they don't pay, but there's no paperwork, there's no threat of foreclosure or anything like that. So they kind of coast along going, we don't really know what to do, but at the same time, the bank's not really hassling that much. They're not calling us that much, and that happens. I mean, loss mitigation departments are very, very minimal in institutions today. They used to be big,
Yeah.
but just basically nothing, and everything's automated. And they definitely get lost in the system. Now, again, there are some people that play in the system and understand that banks struggle with this, but there's a lot of people that these folks turned out to be that just didn't know what to do. So they're maintaining the lawn, they're into the lifestyle, and their balance, of course, is starting to accrue. Okay, we have an accrual account that starts to build up. At some point in time, when a note goes 90 days late, accounting wise, they just stop accounting the balance going up and they say, okay, the balance we're going to freeze at this amount, in this case, 107. But we're going to have this other accounting account that's going to every payment they miss. That's going to be logged into this account plus penalties plus interest. And this is going to start to grow and grow and grow. They're going to have to pay that back as well. So this one had a balance of 107, 6.6% interest, 360 months. And that's the original loan. I apologize. That's the original loan on this one. And the balance they had got down, my apologies for that, 107 original loan, 30 years, 683. They paid that all the way down to $79,000.
Hmm.
So they've established some equity in the property because remember the property is worth on a real estate agent's opinion 126,000 now. So the property's gone up in value. Their loan that started at 107 has dropped down to 79. So they've got some decent equity in the property, and I'm sure they don't want to lose that equity, but something happened where they no longer had the ability to make this monthly payment. Divorce, injury, job loss, you name it. There's things that happen in life. So when you're looking at this and going, well, is this a good note to buy? Well, what can I buy the note for? And how am I going to resolve this situation? Are we going to be able to do some kind of a loan modification, some kind of a loan workout? If not, if these people, because we don't know them, if these people are just hanging in that house as long as they can, and they're just going to let it go towards foreclosure, and then maybe sell the house and pay off the loan at some point in time, they might do that. And that's what I meant by you don't have total control. If this house is worth the $126,000, couldn't they, if they were threatened with foreclosure, let it go out the full foreclosure length in Florida, which could be up to 18 months of living for free, and then sell the house at a good price for 110,000 bucks to somebody. It'll be worth about $130,000, and then they pay off the underlying loan, the accrued balance will walk away with some money. That certainly could happen. We don't know, but that's the whole thing. You hope for best case scenario that we can work something out with them, get this loan to start paying every month again, but we also prepare for a worst case scenario, which is we might have to go the full gamut through foreclosure.
Yeah.
That's what we look at.
Yep.
Okay. So having said that, there's our scenario. That's the setup. So you're the note investor looking at this, evaluating this. You're taking in the story, you're taking in the numbers, you're doing some number crunching there. They haven't made a payment in years, several years. I just saw a tape the other day. People hadn't made payments in 5 years. And these are
Oh,
notes that are freshly for sale. 5 years in this environment. You go, how is that even possible? Because banks aren't foreclosing right now. They are being pushed very heavily by Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and Ginnie Mae, which are basically government owned entities. They're pushing these banks to do everything they can to prevent foreclosure. Eventually, if that doesn't work out, they sell them, but that can take upwards of 5 years. So some people are on that free ride of no payments. Their balance is going up, but no payments coming out. So this note was purchased for $32,000. And once again, you can see there's a much more significant discount on this. Remember, the house is worth about $128,000, so that's backing your investment. You're in it for 32,000 bucks. At $32,000, there's a lot of things that you can do. And that's why we're attracted to these notes. You could forgive some debt to motivate them to stay and pay. If you had to foreclose on the property, you're going to be paid out on a foreclosure sale, no question about it. You would be closed out, by the way, not at the 32,000. If this went to foreclosure, you wouldn't be paid out at the 32,000. That's just what you paid. You're paid on the legal balance, which is the $79,000 plus whatever the accrual balance is. So you have a significant upside if the note continues to stay unpaid. Now, in this case, they had about $800 in unpaid property taxes. Now, I said earlier, we look at the stories and we saw the boat and we saw the property being maintained. One of the other indicators we look at is property taxes. And sometimes you find properties like this where all the property taxes are paid because they do somehow know that if you don't pay property taxes, that foreclosure may happen a lot quicker than a lender, especially a bank, would foreclose upon you. So they typically pay the taxes. Now, in this case, there was only about 800 left. If you're familiar with Florida, that price of house does not equate to $800 in property taxes. They paid something, so they're catching up on the taxes.
they know they're behind.
Yeah, they know they're behind, but it's only 800 bucks. Is that so? I know there's some notes that we look at. That's their whole property taxes for the year. That's not the case in Florida, especially when you get towards the coast over in the Gulf of America there. So what do? We think in terms of, okay, if this goes bad, what do we do? If it's good, what do we do? So you have a minimum of 4 exit strategies, and you go through all of the exit strategies. And if all of them work, you're in good shape. You can't lose money. You're going to make money. It's just a matter of how much and when. Now, if there's a government program, which a few states happen to have left, that's a logical place to go. There's government programs that will pay somebody to catch them up on their loan. If the arrearage account in this example was $25,000, the grant program would pay the $25,000 not to the delinquent borrower, but to the note owner. So imagine you bought this note for $32,000. 90 days later, you get 25 grand back. Now you can totally forgive some debt, modify the loan, get them going. It saved them from having to come up with all of that money. So that's normally the first place we look are the government grant programs. Now, at this stage of the game, most of the states have already allocated all of the funds that are available. But I'm telling you, I mentioned this in this particular video here because if things do go bad in the economy or they make some new law changes that say, look, we're artificially prompting up these delinquent borrowers, which they are, by the way, because we're trying to do everything we can to enable people to stay in their homes. The problem is who's funding that? Well, once again, it's the taxpayers. And we're spending all this money so all these people can stay in their home and not pay anything. At some point in time, there may be some legislation that changes that. And I think what they'll do is they'll bring this program back. Why would I think that they would do that? Because they've already done it in the past.
Yeah, it was successful.
Yeah. Back in the last crash there in 2008-9, that's when this program was created. And it worked well. They extended the program. The program ran its course. And guess what? When loans went bad again, they started another program, of course, with a different name because it was a different administration. And that program was successful. More successful than the first one because it was run better. The first one was run horribly. So that's definitely on the radar screen. Then we look at, can we modify this loan in some fashion? Can we stretch it out? Can we adjust the interest rate? Can we have them pay something to reinstate the loan as an act of good faith? What can we do to modify this? Okay, can we do a temporary mod? Do we do a full mod? What does that look like? So we have a ton of options, and those are options before you buy this note that you're thinking through. What would we be okay with? Now, again, if we've only invested $32,000 in this note, we have a lot of flexibility. We could do a deferment and just say, look, all of that back interest and the accrual that's been getting up, that 25 grand, you know what? Let's put that to the back of the loan. And start making your payment again. Because a lot of people, that's their fear. They know that they might be able to make monthly payments. Let's say these people lost their job. And 3 months later, he's got a job, and now they have the ability to make the payments again. They don't pay him because they go, what good is it? If we make those payments, we're still behind, and the bank has the right to accelerate the loan and foreclose on us anyway. And they're right. We do. It's written right in the contracts. But they don't know that there's solutions to that. And they just go, well, why would we pay because of this? We don't have all the money to catch up. So I guess we'll just wait and see what happens. So we have a lot of things we would think through on doing a modification. If for whatever reasons, they just can't do the loan mod. And this has happened before too. You know, you had a husband, wife, and just statistically, the husband passes away first. Again, statistically, the husband was the breadwinner, let's say. And now the widow is making significantly less income. And if you can't modify it to where they can afford it, but it also has to be, you know, something that's profitable to you, well, then it's time to let them go. And maybe it's time to downsize. Maybe it's time to move on. And that can actually be a blessing for people. And I've had plenty of case studies where I've seen that happen. And when you let them off without a foreclosure and everything else on their record, it's a great way to go. And that's called a deed in lieu. They just sign, look, I'm not going to pay you guys back. I don't have the ability to do that, uh, but I'll sign the property over to you. Great. So we'll take the property, the deed to the property, which is the ownership of the property, in lieu of foreclosing upon them. So it's not on their record, doesn't prevent them from, being able to rent a place on their own, anything like that. And of course, the worst place would be foreclosure. Now, there's another option in here called a short payoff. And this one might be more inclined on a short payoff versus a deed in lieu. So I should have had that on my slide. But a deed in lieu means they just signed the property over. In this case, they do have some equity. The property was worth 126. They owe 80, 90. They owe about 100, so there's some equity within the property. So maybe they could sell the property for enough money to pay off the loan. Perhaps we take a short payoff as a motivator. We're owed 80 plus the 25, we're owed 105, but we'll take 90,000. That way they can sell it quicker at a better price, still walk away with some money. We walk away with 90 grand. We only paid 34. Okay,
Mhm.
short payoff, and that might make some sense. So rather than foreclosing. And by the way, this is one of those properties also that if it does go to a foreclosure sale, what would it sell for, and do you have odds of getting that property or back or not? And on this one, again, depending upon where that value comes in, if it is worth 128 at a foreclosure sale, the highest it would possibly go for is 80% of that, which is about 102. So it's really, really thin. If we're owed the 80,000 plus the 25, we're at 105. There's a good chance we'll end up with this property at a foreclosure sale. So imagine that. You would end up with this property at a foreclosure sale. You're in it for 30,000. It's worth 126.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, again, we can work with this borrower, motivate them and say, look, let's not go through that. Why are we going to go through that? Because you're not going to see any money at the foreclosure sale anyway, because this is where the market is. No investor is going to pay $128,000 for a property that's worth 126, 128. They're not going to do it. They're going to come in at 70 or 80%. So there's nothing in there. Don't have the foreclosure on your record. Sign the property over.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, that property looks good. Yeah, with a boat, it has a pool. Um, you know yourself down in South Florida, the first thing they let go is the pool cage. The screens are ripped up, and
Yeah.
it just that house has been taken care of.
Yeah.
Granted, it probably needs its grass cut a little bit and cleaned up
Yeah.
around the house, but for the most part, I mean, uh, they're not wanting to leave. I think it's more of a situation, something that happened, but they're not wanting to leave. Too much
Yeah, and
emotional equity.
I'm guessing the boat's paid off, because that's one of those things. If they're not paying that boat loan, it's real easy for a tow truck to back right up there and take
Yeah,
that thing out of there. So I'm guessing the boat is paid up, but why haven't they sold it? Well, they're waiting to see how things go, and they would rather probably stay to pay. Well, so loan modification became the biggest attraction first on this because that's the most logical place to start. If a government grant program's not available, then loan modification is what we would look at. So then you think of the terms on that, and that requires engaging with the borrower, not you. That's not your job. Most people don't want to do that. You're going to outsource that to a workout resolution company, which is a part of a servicing company. But the servicing company has to know what you're interested in doing. They're going to reach out, gather information from the borrower. What can they do? Talk with the note owner and say, here's where they are. What do you think we can do? So in this case, what happened was this. Look, you owe $800 in property taxes, Mr. or Mrs. Borrower. You got to pay that back. That's a condition of us doing any kind of loan mod. If you don't do that, we're going to kind of put a stand up and go down the other road. Okay. So there is a bit of carrot and stick in here. I mean, you got to motivate them to take certain actions. So that's got to be paid. That's only 800 bucks. You have this arrearage account, okay, which is significant, 20,000 something dollars. Pay us $6,400 of that money as good faith. We'll take the rest of that. We'll move it to the back of the loan. We won't use that as an acceleration reason to foreclose upon you. Right? If in good faith, you have the $6,400. Now you're thinking, where did they come up with $6,400? They haven't made a mortgage payment in years.
Probably sell that boat.
Or sell the boat, right? You got to do something here, right? You're gonna be trying to work with you, but you might lose your house. Okay. And then just restart the loan. And in this case, they could afford the payment, and they did have some money saved up because they weren't making a payment. And they really did. They were like, we were kind of lost. We didn't know who to pay, and because we get notice from this bank that they own it, and then we get a notice several months later that this other bank owns the note, and we didn't know who to send it to. And we just waited. And that's what happened. They got lost in this whole system here. So once that was done and the window of communication was open, this all got arranged. Now, again, in real estate financing, which this is, real estate notes, everything's in writing. So all of this is going to be documented. We're going to do a temporary loan modification on this. We want to make sure you paid the 800, you paid the 6,400. Now start making the loan payments. So on this balance, they started making the loan payments again. Remember, the arrearage is now out of the picture. They paid $6,400 back. So on your investment, you paid $32,000 for the loan. You got $6,400 back already. Then, after 3 months, they successfully made these monthly payments for 3 months. So they restarted the loan, restarted paying back the loan. And by the way, you also, which was in this contract, said if you breach this new loan agreement within the first 3 months, if you don't make these payments on time, the deal is off, the arrearage amount comes back, and we'll accelerate the loan. Carrot and stick. After 3 months of payments, this note now is considered re-performing with 3 months of seasoning. And this note was resold as a re-performing note for $59,500 to another investor. How did that come out? Well, $32,000 investment. You got 3 payments, which totaled out to $2,000. You got $59,500 on the resale, and you got, man, I got to put my other number in there too. You got that number's wrong because we got 6,400. Remember?
Yep.
That was first. Whoops. So changes right in front of everybody there. So we got the 6,400 for reinstatement. Whoops.
$2 signs.
Yeah, saw it. And a misspelling there. It'll correct it for me. There we go. All right, so we get change our total there. So you got 6,400 plus 2,051. I'll leave off the 40 cents plus 59,500. 67 951. Saved. So there you go. Acquired the loan, opened the communication up, got it modified, 3 months of seasoning. So the whole thing might have taken 6 months. Okay, I can't recall in this particular deal how long it took, but 32 grand to turn it into $67,000, 6 months, 7 months, something along those lines. Just a great deal. So it worked out for the investor. Did it work out for the homeowners? Yeah. The homeowners were able to, instead of coming up with 25 grand to reinstate, 6,400. Right?
Yeah.
That went to the balance of the loan. No further modification necessary because they actually could afford the payments. What about the other investor who paid 59.5 for the loan? 59.5 for the loan. They have 237 payments minus the 3 that were received. So for 59.5, they're getting 234 payments of 683 and 80 cents per month. And that's a return for that investor of 12.5%.
Good deal.
The state or the county got their money for the taxes. So I'll throw that in there. So they're happy as well. Win-win for everybody. Win-win for everybody. Why didn't the bank do this, by the way? Why didn't the bank do this? They don't have the personnel and they don't care. This one tiny note, when they're moving tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars in loans on a regular basis, this loan doesn't move their needle. This one loan going in default is nothing. It's a non-existent statistic for them. So they don't care. If you paid $32,000 in this, you care. And you will be on the spot. And that's when something happens. When you care about it and you're focused about it, something will get resolved. And this one just worked out for everybody all the way around the board. And that's really the goal.
Absolutely. That was a good deal.
Yeah, it was a good deal. You know the person who did this, by the way.
Do I?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. You sure do. First name is Rick.
Okay.
I'll leave it at that. But yeah. So yeah, it was a really great deal all the way around. And that's the goal. I mean, yes, you saw on my list foreclosure. We don't go into this business to foreclose on people. And nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to kick somebody out of their house. But sometimes you have to negotiate from that standpoint of what could happen. Sometimes negotiate from that standpoint to a point where you have to file the foreclosure documentation. That will get the person to call. These late notices, demand notices, these people have already received that because they haven't made a payment in years. They've got that. And you know what they found? You know what they learned is nothing happens. Nothing ever happens. So sometimes we have to wake them up and say, yeah, that was the bank. We're the new bank, okay? Because we do become the bank and we operate a little different. It's time. Something's got to change here. You have to stay, you want to stay, you got to pay. So contact us or we're going down this path of foreclosure. And that's what gets them to wake up. And you know what? Now that gives them direction. They know exactly where they are. So it's a very, sometimes positive thing to happen. You got to launch that foreclosure missile over the bow of the ship, and that's what it looks like.
Yeah.
It
To
gets it
two of
going.
your points, you made a comment about why the bank doesn't do anything. Well, that'll get bundled up and get sent and sold off on the secondary market to a hedge fund company. And secondly, you were talking about the I just lost it. I lost it. Yeah, I lost it. I had a point and I was holding on to it and it's gone.
So you were saying that with the what were we talking about? The bank um,
Yeah.
selling off the loan and yeah, it just goes from one bank to the other, and people again kind of go, well, I don't know, what do we do? And they get this habit of not paying. It's kind of nice. Now again, I know they're being penalized on the other end because there's principal and interest and everything else, but 6 months turns into 12, and 12 turns into 24. It gets a little crazy. But these are the kind of things though that we can do within this industry. So non-performing notes for us, the outcome was great on this. We had to wake the person up, but once it's all resolved, communication opens up. It worked out fantastic for everybody. And that's really what the goal is here. And everybody made money on the thing, including the borrowers. Why? Because they're still living in the house and it's still going up in value. They've money too. Because they could have lost the whole thing. And eventually a bank would have foreclosed upon them, would have taken a little bit longer, but they would have lost everything in it. So it doesn't need to happen. So imagine that was you with your $30,000 investment within an IRA or 401k or without it. Either way, $60,000 within about 6, 7 months is a great way to go. And that's why
Yeah.
when I started, I said people like that passive income of buying a performing note, but every once in a while, their plans usually include, man, I'd like to get a little chunk of money. And that would be a chunk of money. You take that 30 grand and roll it into another deal, and you can see where that can start to snowball. But that's the kind of thing any one of you could do. And that's why I have put together this program where I work with you personally. Getting into this investment by yourself can be intimidating. There's no question about it. You're going to make mistakes if you're going in these things with yourself. It just is. I don't care what it is. If you try to get into real estate investing, rehab investing, and you're doing that yourself and you haven't done it before and you haven't learned, you're going to learn. You're going to learn, all right. You're going to learn the hard way. Same thing with the note business. What I've done to change this industry is work with people personally, one-on-one, through this same format, through Zoom. Let's talk about the deals. Let's go through the notes together. Let's troubleshoot. Let's run the calculations. Let's do the research. So you get my experience with all of this. And there's not many scenarios that I haven't seen simply because of longevity, but that's what you want. So if you want to do this business and you want to work with me personally, work with Dwayne as well, call us. All you have to do, set up a little call there. The Calendly link is on your screen. I'll put it in the text as well. Set up a call. Let's talk. Let's see what you got going, and let's see what we can do to help you, because there's no question in my mind that I can help you, especially if you haven't been in this business for 30 years and trained the number of people that I've trained and seen all the deals that I've seen. If you haven't done that, I can help you. It's pretty simple math.
Yeah, I tell you, this past weekend, I mean, there was a lot of people that came up, new students coming on board, as well as existing students that you have educated over the years that were there, and they said, it's a no-brainer. How I've been through a bunch of training myself through other programs, and they were saying, how in the world can I just work with Kevin just by himself? And I said, hey, that's the way it is. I mean, he's completely changed the educational system in the training business itself. Everything else is a group setting, and working with you one-on-one has really become a game changer. We see it, the amount of deals that you're closing, and it's recognized by all. So past and present, it's a great system. People that don't tap into that, I guess they want to do trial and error. I don't know.
Yeah, you got it. All right, everybody. Thanks again. And we'll have another one for you next Wednesday. In the meantime, you want to give us a call or shoot us an email. Great. We'll follow up with you and get you going. We just closed another 2 deals this past couple of weeks.
Yeah.
We're closing deals every single week, everybody. So if you want to be a part of that, let us know. So we look forward to talking with you all once again real soon. Bye now.